All right, I guess we should start. It's 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and call this special board meeting called into order. Essa, can you take roll, please?
Open the doors.
Okay.
Done.
Public meeting, the attendees. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Essa, can you take roll, please?
Yeah, in attendance, we have Chair Don Mende, Vice Chair Gary Mackler, Secretary Sean Sasaki, and Directors Melvin Kahele, Jake Kimura, Carol Ryman, Director Sabrina Nasser. Did I miss anyone?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
All right, I guess so. Before we start, I just want to ask the board members if there's anyone at your location that will be participating in this meeting. If so, could you please introduce them? If not, okay, moving on. So moving on to item 2A. So this is a discussion and possible action on a policy and strategy for lease renegotiations for the Waihole Valley Agricultural Park and Residential Lot subdivision located in Waihole, Ko'olaupoko, Oahu, TMK 148 various. I guess we won't need a motion yet until we need to take action. So is there anyone from the public that wants to submit public testimony right now? I guess, Francis, could you go over the rules if there is?
Chair Mendy, this is the instructions for providing oral testimony to the board. Anyone wishing to provide oral testimony should indicate that to the chair. Oral testimony will be limited to 3 minutes, subject to the discretion of the chair. And your oral testimony must be on a matter that is on the board agenda. Therefore, as you begin your oral testimony, you should identify yourself and spell your name for the record. After 3 minutes, I will call time. You will have another 15 seconds to conclude your testimony. Please note that this opportunity is for you to communicate your concerns to us. If you ask questions during your oral testimony, neither the board nor staff is required to respond. Finally, anyone wishing to submit written testimony, instructions for doing so are on the front page under the section entitled Public Testimony. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter.
Chair, if I may, I'd like to suggest, I'd like to lay out how I think this meeting should proceed. And I think my suggestion is that we'll take testimony twice. So I'd like to give an overview and background on Waihole Valley and the matter of lease rent that we're going to be discussing today. I suggested that we then take testimony. We will, I do expect that we'll have to convene an executive session. After that, for the members of the public, we'll try to keep it as short as we can. We would then come back into public meeting. I would let the public know what we decided in executive session. And then I think we should take additional testimony at that time, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay, great. Okay, well, good morning. Thanks everyone for participating in this special meeting, the board. Like I said, I'm going to go over some background on the state's involvement in land holdings in Waihole Valley, and then specifically the lease rent renegotiation matter. So we own approximately 596 acres in the valley, 122 lots. Most of these lands were purchased in 1977 from the Marks estate. Public purpose of that acquisition was to preserve the agricultural character of the valley. We do have additional lands that came to us in 1993 from DLNR. Those are ceded lands. After the Marks acquisition, our predecessor agency made substantial improvements to the subdivision. This included improvements to roads, streams, drainage systems, utilities, and also the construction of the potable Waihole water system. We have 93 long-term leases in Waihole Valley, 54 residential, 34 agricultural, and 2 commercial. The leases generally commenced on June 30th, 1998, and the rents have been fixed through January 29th of next year. The leases all expire in June of 2053. The residential lots, the average lot size is about a half acre, but they range from about 500 square feet to an acre and a half. The current average monthly lease rent for a residential lot is $119. The ag lots vary widely in size, from about an acre and a half to close to 60 acres. The average lot size is 8 acres. And there's considerable variation in topography, soil composition, shape of the lots, etc. The annual base rent for the ag lots is set at $100 per acre. There's an additional approximately $500 in base rent per year if there's a residential use. And most of
It goes in on the top. That is.
That's where they're at.
Yeah, down
Well, I'm
there.
just gonna dump on the,
Dump.
I can
Hello?
dump coming down.
Hello, can you please?
Thanks, Essa. Let's see. There's an additional $500 base rent annually if there is a residential use on the ag lots, and most of them do have dwellings on them. Current average monthly base rent for the ag lots is $110, and the ag leases also have a percentage rent provision. On page 4, table 1 shows you the recent historical percentage rent collections. I mentioned there are 2 commercial lots. They're both fronting Cam Highway. One is the home to the Waihole Poi factory, about a 19,000 square foot lot. The other is a former farm stand, but it hasn't been occupied for many years. The Waihole Poi factory lot, that lease is at $160 per month plus percentage rent, and that's averaged a little over $8,000 in recent years. And then the farm stand lot, actually the rent is set at the same rent as the ag leases. So $100 per acre per year. And then considering the small lot size, that works out to be a little over $2 per month. I mentioned that the lease rents are fixed through June of next year. The matter at hand today is the renegotiation of the rents for the next 15-year period. We're doing this in a year in advance. We're starting this process a year in advance because that's what's required under our ground leases. For the residential lots, if the parties can't agree on a new rent by April, then the rent will be determined through arbitration. For the ag lots, that April date would mean required mediation if the parties can't agree on a new rent, and then arbitration if mediation is not successful. Just to review some recent events, in October 2020, we participated in a community meeting hosted by the Waihole-Waikani Community Association and gave a presentation regarding lease rent renegotiations. In March 2021, the WWCA informed us that they had retained a law firm to advise them and their members on this matter. In April last year, we held a community meeting that we hosted regarding the lease rent renegotiations and the timeline process. Last December, the Department of the Attorney General entered into Special Deputy Attorney General services contract on our behalf with the Honolulu law firm that's now known as Long Rose, Boss and Wagner. And under that contract, the law firm engaged Medusky and Company to do some valuation work for us. And then this is the fourth board meeting at which we've discussed the matter of the lease rents. We started back in February. The state has made significant investments in Waihole Valley to the tune of over $17 million over the years. There's an additional $1.2 million of construction in progress on the books relating to the Waihole water system. The Waihole water system that we own and operate does need substantial improvements made to it. We're currently undertaking improvements that will extend its useful life until for another approximately 10 years. We are looking at upgrading the system to border water supply standards. We think that may cost up to $20 million. That would be funded by HHFDC's Dwelling Unit Revolving Fund, or DUR. And unfortunately, entities such as BWS is able to recover their capital costs through water service charges, and embed it into their rate schedule. We can't do that because we're serving only 120 customers, so service connections. And then in addition to these large capital outlays, we've been incurring ongoing operating losses relating to our Waihole Valley operations. And on a pro forma basis, and that's laid out in Exhibit H to the board materials, you'll see that the net operating loss annually is about $1.1 million. And that loss does assume that proposed administrative rules relating to the water system are implemented, which would result in a rate increase over time. That's already been factored in. We're still looking at a loss of $1.1 million annually. So that's a little bit of the background. At this point, Chair, I suggest that we hear from the public and take testimony. And again, I think we should take testimony later after the board has discussed the matter and takes a position on how we want to proceed with the lease rent renegotiation.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Is there anyone online that wants to testify? I see Judith Clark. Okay, we can start with her, and then we can start with people there physically after her.
Aloha. I'm Judith Clark, a tenant in good standing on an agricultural lot in Waiahole Valley. I have lived in the valley since 1976. The lease negotiations provide opportunities for changing conditions of the lease agreements that have been problematic for the residents and for the state of Hawaii. The following are some of the concerns that I would like to see addressed. As stated in the documents that were developed by the staff for this meeting, there are terms in this lease that make it impossible to obtain bank loans for repairs or renovations on the properties. This seriously impedes the ability of farmers to generate revenues if we can't build the infrastructure and purchase the equipment and supplies that we need. Many of the farmers that signed the leases in 1998 are aging. Some of us do not have family members who want to sustain the farms. We are not able to pass the lease on to non-family members who are willing and able to continue farming the land. The Waiahole Poi factory is extremely popular and is causing traffic and parking issues that need to be addressed. I believe that the situation is potentially dangerous for pedestrians, including the students at Waiahole Valley School. Finally, the documents that are provided for this meeting show that a significant number of tenants are not currently meeting the financial requirements of the lease. I haven't seen any information about efforts by the Housing Finance and Development staff to address the issue. But I would point out that increasing lease amounts won't be effective in solving your financial problems unless people are actually paying them. And at the same time, it's important to recognize that many, if not most of the families in this valley are very low income, and that if you terminate their leases, they are very likely to become homeless, is increasing strains on other systems within the state. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Clark. Okay, Chris, is there anyone? Oh, wait, before we move on, I see that Mike is Craig there too? Just for the record, we just want to see that they've joined us. So is there anyone physically there that want to submit any public testimony at this time?
Yep, sure. Aloha and good morning. Board members, staff, HHFDC generally. My name is John Rapun, R-E-P-P-U-N. I guess I qualify as maybe one of those aging farmers. And I've read Judy Clark's testimony before I came in, and I have utmost respect for Judy. She's been at nonprofit work as I have for decades, and she's a real asset to the community. I want to first begin by thanking the staff for the time that you've spent out in Waiahole, addressing issues, addressing this concern. This is a milestone as we enter into a next period, this 15-year period. I want to thank Dean especially for assisting as we've wrestled with issues like what Judy raised about Waiahole Poi factory and traffic and so on. And I also want to thank Craig Uri. Craig, as a former head of the HHFDC, you listened. I brought the issue of concern about needing strategic planning, and we put it in the budget, and we got started with SMS. There were lots of questions about what SMS put together. There was a lot of information put together, very useful, very helpful. And then we went on to Townscape, and Dean has assured me that he is a planner, and I have a passion for planning. In my next life, I'm going to go through urban and regional planning to go to school, maybe. But you know, that the importance of planning, Dean has assured us that strategic planning never really ends, and that's really, really important. We're looking 15 years down the road, and even then beyond that, potentially another extension. This is a really critical milestone with respect to this idea of aging farmers.
With all due respect to Judy, I do understand that farmers are not immortal. They don't get to stay the same age. They're not Merlin living their lives backwards. But what is the case, and what really needs to be bound up in and acknowledged in any strategic plan, is the cycling of families through, especially with small rural family farming. Kids grow up, they've been working on a farm, they've been helping out, and then they run off to Paris and get in the fast lane. And then at some point, they kind of wake up when they've got kids maybe, and they go, I want to go home. And maybe it's next generation that ends up farming, but there are next generation farmers in the area. In the strategic planning process, I think one of the glaring deficiencies, and we take responsibility for that as well, is maybe we did not get to next generation. If I can continue, if that's all right, for a little bit. The Waiahole of the past, the Waiahole community past and the Waiahole community of the present, I think are vastly different. Just this past year, I've become aware that there are at least 3 or 4 in the valley who are heading for either gotten their master's in urban regional planning or heading for a degree in urban regional planning. One of the progeny of Leslie has her PhD in nutrition, teaching at UH. Another in stream biology. I think we are better prepared as a community to be far more participatory than we have in the past.
Excuse me, Chair, the 3 minutes have run, so.
Okay, yeah. Can you close up, please?
Sure. Okay. Mostly what I wanted to express today is that as we look ahead into the future of Waiahole, let's not let this experiment, in a sense, that George Ariyoshi got us started in. He reached into the nearest pot available to alleviate a pretty contentious situation back in the 70s. And that happened to be housing funds. But that is not the purpose of Waiahole. That is not the reason why the state took on Waiahole. The state took on Waiahole to a considerable extent, to a significant extent, to preserve future family farming. And now in this day and age, food security and those kinds of concerns are far, far, far more important than ever before, not only on a local basis, but on a national and global basis. So I just would ask that HHFDC focus as best as possible on how to perpetuate farming in the area and help it to make a difference. This is the kind of model that we need to see around the state and other bioregions. So, mahalo.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else?
I just wanted to ask some procedural question that it might not just relate to this particular testimony, but in the future, when we have public testimony, can we as board members ask them questions after? I mean, I don't know if we ever talked about that. If we have questions,
it's the right of the board. So it kind of depends on the situation, right? We can ask questions. There's no rule, I think, stating that we can't, but we're not obligated to.
okay. But I mean, yeah. Okay. No, I just want to know that, going forward to not just for this meeting, but future ones.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question then?
Sure.
Mr. Opun, John, can you just expand upon a little bit that you said future, this was really Waihole's purpose in the beginning. And, you said future family farming in a rural area. And HHFDC is a housing development corporation. And I know you made reference to it was the best thing we had at the time. So I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about, as we go forward. I think one of the challenges and that I've learned over time is how does a state entity effectively manage and oversee that when and it's kind of not in our common practice to deal with Waiahole. So maybe there's in the future, and we don't have to tie this into leases, but if we do talk about leases, and if we could transfer the lease management to another entity, who would those entities be? Like Agribusiness Development Corp? The Department of Ag, or, what entity is a fit? Because I want you to know too that Agribusiness Development Corp coming to, the agency that I happen to run right now.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be different from maybe what people thought it was.
Mhm.
But I think that's something maybe you would be something good for the community to talk about. But just wondering what your thoughts would be on that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Point, the state probably thought, first we grab this housing money, put it in their HHFDC or HHA at the time, and then it gets handed off to Department of Ag or DLNR. And as I expressed to Mr. Harai here, we talked about the idea of strategic planning. There's no state agency that's going to say, sure, we'll take on a cantankerous community, farmers that live on their land. The state's not used to that. I was born in the territory of Hawaii. I grew up, I was born in Molokai, grew up seeing sugar, pineapple just taking off, right? We have never had agriculture that hasn't been subsidized. So, but we don't really know how, we've never really figured out how to subsidize small rural family farming, which is actually the way you get food on the table, farm to table. During COVID, it's really interesting what's happened with food moving to the table. And so it's definitely worth us exploring. As to your question, Mike, about what kind of entity would take on this kind of management. This doesn't quite fit in the wheelhouse of HHFDC, but community development does. There are other communities around the state. Pahoa, I know from talking to Chris about this, Pahoa has housing that you guys have developed that is for farm workers. So we haven't, I don't have the answer for that. We've talked about the idea. I had hoped that strategic planning would take us further down the road and looking at what those different kind of options are. And I hope that that can be the case in the future. We've got some time to do that. Maybe it's a farmland trust. There are models out there, and we cannot just look in Hawaii. I mean, I grew up in a time when we thought, oh, we can solve everything, but we don't go looking outside. Nonprofits, 400 acres of He'ia, as you know, Mike, we fought hard for getting that land off the market, out of Bishop Estate's hands.
Excuse me, Mr. Rupun, can you finish up, please, real quick? And Mike, I just wanted to make sure that there's enough time for the other testifiers to go ahead. So if we need to continue the conversation, maybe we could continue it on the back end.
You know what? Yeah, that's the other question. I just wanted to know if there were other testifiers, and then I could ask questions later. So thank you.
Good. Thanks for the question. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Only two, so that's why I asked the question. I would have waited.
Yeah,
Thanks
no, I
for-
just want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to go ahead and provide their testimony. So is there anyone else? Yeah, go ahead. Can you step up and then state your name for the record?
Hello, board. Thank you. I'm Elijah Clarence Montgomery Nui Lokan. I'm a blood descendant of the original Hawaiians in Waiahole Valley. I have an obligation to keep our Apawa'a up and running, keep the next generation planting on our original lands, and to deal with the current situations that we have today, which is management. I'm here to peacefully ask that we keep communication, and thank you for this time. The number one subject is negotiations of the lease rent. And right now there's a few Hawaiians in the valley, and a lot of the kapunas that I don't participate too much in the meetings. I go help fix and work the lands with them, fix the roofs, fix the stairs, kind of keep them going. The issues that they have, there's a few that cannot speak even English. That's our hard-working farmers. They called me up, asked me to attend this meeting because they don't understand. Chris would relate to a lot of the people in the community and Mike that can't always speak the language. So I'm here to hopefully have a future for not only my ohana, I'm a father of 8, take care of a lot of kapuna in the valley, and we'll start to try to attend to keep communications here so that we can self-sustain, so that we can continue to thrive through COVID. I'm a current ulu farmer, cacao, a lot of medicinal medicines, a lot of the medicines we have on a farm. It helps to battle COVID, helps respiratory. Trying to just stay pono with everything. Share the aloha. Along the way, we know there's slander, we know there's our battles, but it's good to see people in the eyes so you know who we are as people. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you guys. So one of our proposals, we're actually farming as we speak, coming together so that we can have the master plan of how to self-sustain not only our community but our whole island. And there's a lot in the works. So it's hard to be in the field and then also come to the table. So I gotta wear multiple hats, and I'm willing to do it. It's my generation that needs to keep us all healthy, and that's pretty much what we're trying to do. Is a lot of people can't afford but there's ways to get that money. Our water's flow all the way to Elva, to the $1 million homes that we're building out there, and we need to bring some of that funding back to put it back in this pot so that we can self-sustain the community more, and work a little bit more. You said there's 2 commercial lots in the front. Give us the opportunity to have some fruit stands out there so we can push our product so it can circulate. There's a lot of things to work on, but I appreciate all of you guys and thank you for the opportunity to let me speak at this meeting. Thank you and aloha.
Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
testifying today.
Any questions?
At the end.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I don't see any. Is there anyone online? No, okay. All right, so I guess we can move forward. Is there any other discussion before we bring Chris back up?
Chair, if I may, thanks to Ms. Clark. Wanted to say a few things before we meet in private and executive session. We did receive a letter from the Waihole Waikane Community Association. And, so I believe that has been posted to our board materials page. This letter was received earlier in the week, and
It's on file, right?
yeah. So it was it is a very friendly letter, really pledging to work together in good faith to negotiate the new lease rents, and I believe that we can do so. I think HHFDC has made great strides in being more communicative with Waihole Valley lessees and landowners. And so I just wanted to point that out, that we did receive that letter from the Waihole Waikane Community Association.
Thanks, Chris. And yeah, we did receive the communication, I think via email from SI, I think.
Yeah. And then, so I just wanted to thank Ms. Clark for providing testimony. John and Elijah, who I know, for doing the same, taking the time out of their day. I did want to have a little bit of time to address a few of the things that Ms. Clark mentioned, if that's okay, Chair.
All right.
Real quick, financeability of the leases. Yeah, I kind of skipped over that. The way the leases are written, they function more like long-term use permits than traditional ground leases. So they generally are not financeable. Ms. Clark is correct about that. Regarding the transfer of the leases to parties other than children or spouses, that actually is possible. However, it requires a payment to HHFDC to recover a small portion of the capital costs that we've incurred in making improvements to the valley over the years. I believe that number is about $25,000 today. So, but it is possible. And then lastly, Ms. Clark mentioned that, we have, she referred to basically a rent collection problem. I believe she's referring to the percentage rent collections under, I see her nodding her head, yes. Under the ag leases where, we have 30 or so ag leases, and in recent years, we've been collecting for maybe, 8, 10, 12 of them. I would point out that, it's absolutely true. Not everyone has been paying percentage rent. It does represent, however, a very small fraction of the rental income that we generate from the ground leases. That said, next Friday is July 1st, so land management will there's going to be a little bit of a reorganization internally, and the branch that I work in will assume responsibility for land management in Waihole Valley. And so we hope to improve on the progress that we've made in managing the valley. And that would include rent collection. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just to wrap up my question to Mr. Rapun, I'm not going to ask him any more questions, but I wanted to share with them that, although we talked about looking for other agencies that may be a better fit to manage the future of Waihole going forward, I want to say for the record that there's not another staff or team of people that I've seen in any other agency that is capable and caring and wanting to find a solution of this staff. So, when you look at the different agencies, we might think things might be better, but everyone has their execution challenges. And I want to tell you that having seen this around the state, the staff that's here is, I think, probably the best, if not the best, of anyone doing it around the state. So, we're lucky to have them, and I just wanted the residents to know that, and we support what they do.
Agreed. Thanks for that. I definitely agree. We do have some great staff. Okay. So what next? Do we need to go to executive session, Chris?
Chair, I think at this time, the board should, someone should make a motion to convene an executive session. The rationale for doing so is to consult with the board's attorney. And also we're talking about a real property transaction as it relates to lease rent. And so it's allowed under section 92 Hawaii revised statutes. For the members of the public, we will try to, I'll do my best to try to keep it as short as possible, but we just ask you to sit tight, and we'll be back shortly and we can talk some more. Sure.
I move according to the to accept the staff recommendation to go into executive session on Waihole Waikani leases.
I second.
All right. Thanks, Mel. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay. We are in executive session. All right. Is everybody back on? Okay. Where's the boardroom? Essa, you guys there?
Sorry, can we wait a minute?
Okay.
Okay, Don.
Okay, ready?
If I may, Francis Kino, I did call Elijah Kane. He told me he was downstairs and I told him the meeting was resuming, but he's had time to come up and he's not yet in the boardroom. So it's up to the discretion if you want to proceed, but he had time to come in to see the rest of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Francis. All right, so we're back in regular session. Thanks everybody for being so patient with us. All right, Chris, you wanna go ahead and
I will, yeah. I'm on page 8 of the public document. We are going to be amending the public document at the end, and we'll post it after the meeting. Regarding our policy and approach to the negotiations, it's recommended that HHFDC adopt the following policy to guide the Waiahole Valley rent renegotiations over the next year. One, to the extent possible, HHFDC will treat all lessees equally to the extent that it is neither practicable nor advantageous to HHFDC to treat all lessees equally. They will be treated equitably. The overall goal of the negotiations is to significantly reduce or eliminate our ongoing losses in Waiahole Valley, but balancing that with our community objectives and social goals. Under the leases, obligated to negotiate the base rent and the percentage rent. That is all that we will negotiate. We will negotiate directly with lessees or their duly appointed representatives. Lessee representatives must be appointed in writing if a lessee is a tenant by the entirety, for example, both husband and wife, husband and wife may have to sign that appointment. We note that base rents for Waiahole Valley's ground leases would have to increase by a factor of 9, or $1.1 million in operating losses. That would mean an average monthly rent of almost $1,100 for the residential lots and almost $1,000 for the agricultural lots. These rents are supported by market data and they're likely achievable through arbitration. However, the state's public purpose of the Marks acquisition was to preserve the rural agricultural nature of the valley, and that needs to be taken into consideration. If the board adopts the policy recommended above, then staff suggests that a reasonable objective of the negotiations might not to be cover all of our operating costs. Rather to align with community objectives and social goals, and in furtherance of the public purpose of the Marks Estate acquisition. Staff recommends that the board authorize the executive director or her designee to negotiate fair and reasonable lease rents that may be lower than the levels necessary to cover our full operating costs in Waiahole Valley. Upcoming events, we will be holding a meeting at the Waiahole School a night at 7 p.m. And it'll be Director McCartney, Executive Director Denise Asari-Matsubara, myself, and some other colleagues. So we hope to see and meet with the lessees at that time. Again, Monday, 7 p.m. Waiahole School. Going to go ahead and read staff's recommendation, which is that the board approve the following actions relating to the upcoming lease rent renegotiations for Waiahole Valley. The first is adoption of the rent renegotiation policy that I just described. The second is adoption of the rent renegotiation strategy that we discussed in executive session today. And also to authorize the executive director or her designee to undertake all tasks necessary to effectuate the purposes of this for action, including but not limited to negotiation of Waiahole Valley lease rents and the legal documentation thereof, and any actions relating thereto, provided that final agreement and documentation of lease rents for the 2 commercial lots will be subject to board approval. Chair, I think now you'll want to make a motion to recommendation of staff, but may I suggest that before taking a vote, we allow members of the Waiahole community and general public to offer additional testimony should they choose to do so.
All right. Can I get a motion?
Sure, I move to accept the staff recommendations regarding a delegation of authority to the executive director as proposed by the staff.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Is there a second?
I second on.
Thanks, Mel. All right, so I guess I just want to inform, just in case this meeting runs a little long. I have a 12:30 that I need to run to, so a few minutes before that I'll cut out and Gary will take over. So just in case, just to let everybody know. But so is there anyone that wants to submit any public testimony regarding this matter? Okay, is there anyone in person or online? If you could, I guess, signify in the message box or unmute yourself and let me know. Is there anyone there? Chris?
Oh,
Behind.
oh, is Elijah out there?
I'm still here.
Oh,
Chris?
Would you like to speak again?
No, I'm good. I know. We're on
Okay.
special.
okay.
I don't have eyes in the back of my head. Okay, so I think it would be safe to take a vote now.
Yeah, and then just for the record, Mr. Chair, I wanted to just acknowledge the receipt of the Waihole Waikani Community Association letter, June 20th, 2022. And the last paragraph in there is we're going to strive to negotiate in good faith and move forward together and look for what is in the best of all the parties to find the right balance. So we look forward to beginning the process and seeing everyone on Monday.
All right, thanks. All right, so if not, a call for question. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Seeing and hearing none, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so is there anything else that needs to be discussed for this meeting? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thanks, Mel.
Second.
Thanks, Carol. So, Mel, is this going to be your last meeting?
I hope so.
All right. So hopefully we can send you off well then. Thanks, Mel.
You guys all take care.
You too. All in
Thanks,
favor?
Mel.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.